Shalom and welcome to Jerusalem Hebrew's weekly reading of the first three verses of each week's Torah portion. In the reading of each week's Torah portion, we slowly articulate every word of the first three verses so that you can learn the correct classical pronunciation of the biblical Hebrew. This week's Torah portion is parashat YESHEV, Genesis chapter 37, verse 1 through chapter 40, verse 23. We are beginning on Pasuk Harishon, on the first verse, chapter 37, Pasuk Aleph, the first verse. Repeat after me. YESHEV, YESHEV, Yaakov, Yaakov, Be'eros, Be'eros, Merure, Merure, Aviv, Aviv, Be'eros, Be'eros, Canaan, Canaan. We'll read it in the transliteration below. So reading the Hebrew in the Hebrew letters is from right to left. In the transliteration, we're going from left to right. Do note there is an accent symbol over the syllable, the part of the word, which should be accented, emphasized, more so than the other parts. Yeshev, Yaakov, Be'eros, Merure, Aviv, Be'eros, Canaan. One more time. Yeshev, Yaakov, Be'eros, Merure, Aviv, Be'eros, Canaan. With regard to the name Yaakov, Jacob, make sure you are pronouncing this name as three syllables, not two. It's not Yaakov. It's not Yaakov. It's Yaakov. Yaakov. You can see it here. There are three vowels, each separated by a consonant that equals three syllables. Right? We have a patah under the yud. Patah vowel makes an ah sound. We have another patah under the ayin, which together with the shwa makes a short ah sound. If this were one syllable, you would only need one patah, but there are two patah vowels. So that's one, two syllables. And then we have the hulam, the little dot between the letter kuf and the letter vet. So that dot is a hulam, it makes an O sound. So Yaakov. We know to accent the first syllable because there is a mether, a little vertical line pointing up and down right here, right above my cursor. That mether means you should emphasize this syllable. Emphasize, meaning elongate, slightly elongate the vowel sound of that syllable more so than you normally would. So you will be accenting the first syllable and the last syllable, and you will be under accenting the syllable of the ayin. Under accenting does not mean do not pronounce. Under accenting does not mean obliterate, erase from the Torah. Under accenting means you do pronounce it, but it should not be as emphasized as the other vowels. And any time you see this colon-shaped symbol, which is called a ha-shavua, anytime you see it and you know it is pronounced as a short vowel, well, anytime you see it and it's pronounced at all, it is pronounced as a short, unemphasized vowel. Always, always. The ha-shavua, the colon symbol looking thing, it is always either indicating a complete absence of a vowel or an unemphasized vowel. It never is the emphasized syllable of a word. So let's read this pasuk one more time. YESHEV Yaakov YESHEV Yaakov Be'eras Merure Aviv Be'eras Canaan. One more time, a little bit more of a natural pace. ويشب يعقوب بأرس مغورة أبيو بأرس كناعا. And one more time, a little bit more of a natural pace. ويشب يعقوب بأرس مغورة أبيو بأرس كناعا. Pasuk Abba. Next verse. Pasuk Abba. Repeat after me. We will begin in the transliteration to the left. Again, remember, accented syllables have the accent symbol over them. El, el, ثلاث, ثلاث, يعقوب, يعقوب. Here, there should be an accented syllable. It is a typo that is lacking. يعقوب, Yosef, Yosef, Ben, Ben, Sheva, Sheva, accent the final syllable. Sheva. See, I also make mistakes. Not Sheva. That is not what you want to do. Sheva, Sheva, Esre, Esre. So let's read these two one more time correctly. How did I know that it's not Sheva? How? If you said it's because you don't see an accent symbol over the E, that's correct. That's how you can know. And if you look in the Hebrew, right here, you can know because there's a shawa under the sheen, under the sh. There is a shawa symbol, looks like a colon. That means unaccented. So even if you didn't have the transliteration, you could know this sh syllable should not be accented. And here, to make it extra clear, the Masoretes added a method, a vertical line underneath the vet to let you know here, not only should it be accented, but extra accented. Be extra careful. So not Sheva, but Sheva. So let's read it again. Sheva Esre. Sheva Esre. Shana Haya Ru'eh Haya Ru'eh Es Es Ehau Ehau Basin Basin Wuhu Wuhu Na'ar Na'ar. Two syllables, not one. If you see a bolded vowel, it lets you know that you should pronounce that vowel with an ayin sound. So we see here the word nar, and this last syllable has an ayin. So not nar, not nar, which sounds more like flame or candle, lamp rather, but nar. It's a completely different root word. F, F, bene, bene, vilha, vilha. F, what F, bene, bene, zilpa, zilpa, not zilpa, not zilpa, not zil, oh. Do not pronounce the L like we do at the end of words in English. It could be that that was one of the variations of the L sound in Hebrew in ancient Hebrew, but no Jewish community has preserved that, to my knowledge, or to any established academic understanding. But it could have been in existence, considering traditions from other Semitic languages. Nonetheless, Hebrew as we have received it, and certainly in modern Hebrew as well, the L sound in English is always the L sound in Hebrew is always pronounced like the L in the beginning of a syllable in English. So in English, there are actually two types of L sounds. There's a distinction between an L at the beginning of a syllable, the beginning of a word, as opposed to the L sound at the end of a word, at the end of a syllable in English. So, for example, the L in love, think about where your tongue is making contact in your mouth. The L in the word love is in a different position of the mouth than the L in uncle, uncle. The L in uncle at the end of a word is in the back of your mouth. So in Hebrew, the L sound, at least in Hebrew as we have preserved it, the L sound is always produced no matter where it is in a word. The L sound in Hebrew, no matter where it is in a word, is always produced in the way that it is pronounced at the beginning of a word in English. So not zilpa, not zilpa, but zil, zil, l. Tip of the tongue toward the top teeth, top front teeth. Zil, zilpa, zilpa, zilpa. Accent over the ah. Zilpa. So let's say it again. B'nei zilpa. Neshe, neshe, aviyu, aviyu. Wayave, wayave. Notice you have a apostrophe that indicates that there's an aleph here. That is a glottal stop. It's like the way that a native English speaker would pronounce the T at the end of the word it. The standard English pronunciation of the word it in the United States is not it. Native English speakers of American English do not say it is. They say it, it. It's like a sound, like an oh or ta in British English. So instead of Yahweh, it's Yahweh, Yahweh. And how do we know it should be pronounced Yahweh? Because the rule in Hebrew is that when a word ends with a guttural letter, you pronounce the vowel before the guttural letter at the end of the word. That means that the aleph should be pronounced by Yahweh. And this would be the difference between the common word lo, N-O, in English, no, lo, as opposed to the word lo, for him or to him. So no would be lo, lo, and to him or for him would be lo. Bo'u namshich. Let's continue. Wayave, Wayave, Yosef, Yosef, Eth, Eth, Dibatham, Dibatham, Ra'ah, Ra'ah. Two syllables. Ra'ah, Ra'ah, Ra'ah. El, El, Avihem, Avihem, Avihem. Now let's read it in the Hebrew letters. El, Toletheth, El, Toletheth. Yaakov, Yaakov. Yosef, Yosef. Ben, Shava' Asre, Shava' Asre. Here we have two ayns in a row, so you should really hear the ayn here. Shava' Asre. It's almost like having a dagesh, a emphasis dot in the middle of the ayn. Shava' Asre, Shava' Asre, Shava' Asre. Shana, Shana, haya, haya, رعاه رعاه أف أف أحو أحو بصن بصن وهو وهو ناعر ناعر أف بناه أف بناه vilha vilha وأف وأف بناه بناه زلبا زلبا نشاه نشاه أبيو أبيو ويوه ويوه يوسف يوسف أف أف ديباثام ديباثام رأى رأى ال ال أبيهام أبيهام. We will read it one more time in a more natural pace. ال تلذث يعقوب يوسف بن شبع عسر شنا هيا رعى أفأح بصن وهو ناعر أف بن فيلها وأف بن زيلبا نشى أبيو ويوف يوسف أف ديباثام راعى الأبيهام. One more time at a even more natural of a pace. ألا تلذذ يعقوب يوسف بن شبع عسر شنا يرعى أثأحو بصن وهنا عر أثبن بالها وأثبن زلبا نشأ أبي وياب يوسف أثدي بثام راعى الأبيهام. Pasuk haba, next verse, next pasuk. Repeat after me. We'll look in the transliteration first. If you feel more advanced in Hebrew, you can follow along in the Hebrew letters. ويسرائيل ويسرائيل أهاب أهاب أف يوسف أف يوسف ميكول ميكول بناو بناو كي ذن زقونيم كي ذن زقونيم هو لا لا وعصا وعصا لا كثنث كثنث حسيم حسيم. Let's read it in the Hebrew. ويسرائيل ويسرائيل أهاv أهاv أث يوسف أث يوسف ميكول بنو ميكول بنو كي ذن زقونيم كي ذن زقونيم هو لا لا وعاصى وعاصى لا لا كثنث كثنث pasim pasim. Why am I saying pasim instead of just pasim? What's the difference between pasim and pasim? Pasim, I am doubling, continuing the sound of the S as if it's twice without a vowel separating the two S sounds. So it's like pas and then seam together. Pasim. You're elongating the S consonant sound. That's the difference between pasim and pasim. So why am I doing that? Because there's a dagesh in the samech, in the letter samech. Pasim. All right, let's read it one more time, a little bit more of a natural case. וישראל אהב את יוסף מכל בנו, כי בן זקונים הוא לו, ועשה לו כתנת פסים. One more time, in an even more natural of a pace. וישראל אהב את יוסף מכל בנו, כי בן זקונים הוא לו, وَعَصَلَ كَثَنَثْ pasim. Now we will take a look at our 5 key words from the first 3 verses of this week's Torah portion. Parashat YESHEV. So the first word is YESHEV, YESHEV, and it means he dwelt. It literally means he sat. It's actually the imperfect tense, but the vav reverses it. When you add a vav to a verb, especially at the beginning of phrases and verses in biblical Hebrew, it typically reverses the tense. So instead of "and he will sit," the imperfect tense, it becomes "and he sat." And sitting is the common way of conveying the idea of dwelling in biblical Hebrew. So it's going to be translated as "and he dwelt," literally, "and he sat." Number 2, Kana'an. Kana'an. Kana'an literally means subdued or humbled, and in later Hebrew, not modern Hebrew, already in ancient Hebrew, but it eventually came to be synonymous with or connote the meaning of merchant. And the geographic region that was called Canaan includes the modern-day borders of Israel and the southern parts of Lebanon and southern Syria. And it's important to note, both with this word as with any other name of a area, it's important to distinguish between the name of a region as a geographic region as opposed to the name of an official government or ethnicity or nation. So this term Canaan was a regional term. It was a regional term. It was not the name of an empire, as far as anyone knows. The first empire, so to speak, albeit a small empire, the first and only known empire that was Canaanite was the Kingdom of Israel. The Kingdom of Israel. Right? So the Kingdom of Israel and the people of Israel are the only empire nation of Canaanite origin that is known to have existed. The 7 Canaanite nations, as they are termed, were not a united nation. They were clearly distinct ethnic groups. Some of them are known to not have been indigenous to the land of Canaan, such as the Hittites, such as the Amorites. So just because there is a reference of 7 Canaanite nations in the Bible does not mean that each of those 7 nations are indigenous to Canaan. It just means that they were there. And if you think about it, all peoples come from somewhere else at some point, or their ancestors did at least. What qualifies as indigenous? That the identity of the people, that their culture and their national identity originated in a particular location. But of course, their ancestors came from somewhere else, in any case. Unless you think people just pop up out of the ground. So we have no need for irrational discussions. Canaan means literally subdued or humbled. It was a geographic term for what is the modern borders of Israel, as well as southern parts of Lebanon and Syria. Number 3, ro'eh. Ro'eh is a shepherd, a person who takes care of flocks. Number 4, ahav, he loved. Ahav is the most simple form of a verb, third person, masculine, singular, as if such as he did. So the most simple form of a verb in Hebrew is always going to be the quote-unquote he did form of the verb, third person, masculine, singular. And number 5, Kethoneth Pasim. Kethoneth Pasim, one of the most famous terms in the Bible, and ironically or not, it is also one of the most disputed terms among linguists and commentators of the Bible as to what pasim means. We know what kethoneth means, it's a tunic, but pasim, because it is so infrequently used in ancient Hebrew literature, you don't have as much context in the text to give greater certainty as to what pas actually means. But comparing it to closely related Semitic languages, other languages that are closely related to Hebrew, it appears to be related to the concept of segmentation. So it may possibly be referring to a garment that was given to Joseph that had special segments or compartments, or perhaps that it was striped. And there are even some commentators who suspect that it may connote the fact that it was long or opulent, meaning gaudy or overly showy. But suffice it to say, Kethoneth Pasim is the original term for what people call Joseph's coat of many colors. Kethoneth Pasim. Kethoneth Pasim. More likely a segmented tunic or a striped tunic. So that concludes our lesson for this week's parashat YESHEV. Wishing you all a wonderful Shabbat Shalom.